The morning sun crept over the artificial horizon of Aranda 5's biodome, casting long shadows across the settlement's modest structures. Outpost Director Laura Nakamura gazed through the reinforced viewport of the command center, her eyes tracing the contours of what Earth officials had designated as humanity's weakest colony. With only 500 inhabitants and minimal defensive capabilities, Aranda 5 was considered little more than a footnote in Earth's galactic expansion efforts. "Another day in paradise," Lara murmured, taking a sip from her steaming cup of synthetic coffee. The bitter liquid was one of the few luxuries the outpost could afford to import from Earth, 12 light-years away. Behind her, Malik Ortiz, the colony's security chief, was reviewing the night shift reports on his tablet. His weathered face betrayed no emotion as his fingers swiped through the routine data. "All systems nominal," he reported, his deep voice carrying across the quiet room. "Agricultural Dome 3 had a minor pressure fluctuation, but Engineer Petrovich already has a team addressing it." Lara nodded, turning from the viewport to face the holographic display at the center of the room. It showed a three-dimensional rendering of Aranda 5, 5 interconnected domes surrounded by research outbuildings, solar arrays, and a small spaceport capable of handling only 2 medium-sized vessels at a time. "And how are our biological research projects progressing?" she asked, zooming in on Dome 2, where most of the colony's scientific facilities were housed. The door to the command center slid open with a soft hiss, and Anya Petrovich, the colony's network engineer, strode in. Her long, dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, and despite the early hour, her eyes were alert and focused. Dr. El Sayed's fungal adaptation tests exceeded expectations. Anya reported, pulling up the relevant data on the holographic display. "The modified strains are showing 32% better growth rates in Aranda's low-pressure environment than previous generations. If this trend continues, we might actually meet our food production quotas this year." Lara allowed herself a small smile. Despite the outpost's challenges, its agricultural and biological research was beginning to yield promising results. Established in 2278 as humanity's furthest outpost from Earth, Aranda 5 was initially intended as little more than a symbolic gesture of human expansion. The planet's hostile environment, low atmospheric pressure, minimal water resources, and extreme temperature fluctuations made it an unlikely candidate for successful colonization. But Earth's exploratory comet missions throughout the galaxy had opened numerous colonial opportunities, and Aranda 5 had become an unexpected focal point for innovative research in extreme environment adaptation. "How's the civilian morale?" Lara asked, pulling up the community bulletin board on a secondary screen. Malik shrugged. "As good as can be expected. The weekly entertainment transmission from Earth arrived intact this time, so that's kept people happier than usual. A few complaints about recycled water quality in residential Dome 1, but nothing serious." Lara nodded, taking another sip of her coffee. Despite the challenges, the colonists of Aranda 5 had developed a certain stubborn pride in their remote outpost. They might be the weakest of Earth's colonies, but they were survivors. The peaceful moment was shattered by a sudden blaring alarm. The holographic display flickered, then shifted to display a warning message in pulsing red. "Automated incursion signal detected," Anya announced, her fingers flying over the control interface. "Unknown vessel configuration entering orbital approach." Malik was already at the security station, bringing the outpost's minimal defensive systems online. Multiple signatures. Definitely not Earth ships or any registered Alliance vessels. Lara set down her cup with a steady hand, years of emergency drills taking over. "Identification." Anya's face paled as she pulled up the signal analysis. "Zelthar warship configuration. A battle cluster. 1 command vessel, and 3 support craft." The room fell silent. The Zelthar were a powerful species from a neighboring star system, known for their territorial expansion and military prowess. While not openly hostile to humans, diplomatic relations had been tense since first contact, decades earlier. But they had never before shown interest in a remote outpost like Aranda 5. Time to orbital positioning, Lara asked, her voice calm, despite the thundering of her heart. 17 minutes at current velocity, Malik replied. Lara took a deep breath. As outpost director, the lives of every colonist were now in her hands. The nearest Earth military response was weeks away, even at maximum FTL speeds. Aranda 5 had no meaningful defenses against a Zelthar battle cluster. Initiate red phase, she ordered, activating her command override. Malik and Anya exchanged a surprised glance. Red phase was the colony's most extreme emergency protocol, one they had discussed but never expected to implement. Confirm red phase authorization, Director, Malik asked, his hand hovering over the security console. Confirmed, Lara said firmly. Authorization Nakamura 7 Delta 9. Activate the zero response. Anya's eyes widened. The zero response, are you certain? We have no choice, Lara replied, meeting her gaze steadily. We always knew this day might come. Now we see if our preparation was worth it. Malik nodded grimly and pressed his palm against the biometric scanner. Throughout the colony, red warning lights began to flash, and a calm, automated voice announced, "Attention all colonists! Red phase protocol has been initiated. This is not a drill. Proceed immediately to your designated evacuation points. Repeat, this is not a drill." Anya was already activating a hidden console that had remained dormant since the colony's establishment. Initiating zero response network. Activation time 12 minutes to full operational status. Lara activated the colony-wide communication system. Attention all Aranda 5 personnel. This is Director Nakamura. We have detected Zelthar vessels on approach to our position. We estimate less than 20 minutes until potential hostile contact. This is not a drill. Implement red phase protocols immediately. Section leaders report to emergency channels as your teams deploy. She turned to Malik. Deploy the rapid response team. I want mobile radar stations and scout drones in position before they enter our atmosphere. Already moving, Malik confirmed, speaking rapidly into his communicator as he headed for the door. And what about the civilian population? Standard evacuation protocol to the underground bunkers, Lara replied. Dr. El Sayed will coordinate. Priority is preserving lives. The colony infrastructure is secondary. As Malik departed, Lara turned to Anya. How quickly can you bring the zero response fully online? Anya's fingers danced across the hidden console, activating systems that had been built in secret alongside the outpost's official infrastructure. 10 minutes to full activation. I'm bringing the distributed self-destruct network online now, and the combat drones are initializing. Lara nodded, feeling the weight of her decision. The zero response was Aranda 5's last resort defense system, a network of strategically placed explosives throughout the colony combined with a swarm of kamikaze drones hidden in storage facilities across the settlement. If activated, it would obliterate most of the colony's infrastructure, but it might also take any invaders with it. Remember, Lara said quietly, our priority is survival. The outpost can be rebuilt. Anya nodded, though Lara could see the conflict in her eyes. They had all invested years of their lives into building Aranda 5. The thought of deliberately destroying it was painful, even if it meant saving the colonists. Throughout the settlement, organized chaos erupted as the Red Phase protocol took effect. Colonists quickly gathered essential supplies before heading to designated evacuation points. Section leaders directed the flow of people, maintaining remarkable calm despite the unprecedented situation. In the Biological Research Dome, Dr. Amir El Sayed was overseeing the emergency preservation of critical research samples. His hands moved with practiced precision as he transferred experimental fungal cultures into portable containment units. "Doctor, we need to evacuate now," urged one of his assistants. "The security team says we have less than 15 minutes. "Almost finished," Amir replied, carefully sealing the last containment unit. "These cultures represent 2 years of adaptation work. We can't lose them." Across the comm system, Malik's voice crackled. Radar confirms 4 Zelthar vessels in high orbit. 3 are maintaining position. 1 is descending toward our location. Estimated ground arrival in 12 minutes. In the command center, Lara watched the situation unfold on the tactical display. Tension rippled through the colony as the evacuation continued. Not everyone was proceeding calmly. In Residential Dome 3, a group of colonists had gathered in protest. "Director," came a voice over the comm system. "We have a situation in Dome 3. Several researchers are refusing to evacuate. They're demanding to speak with you directly." Lara grimaced. "Put them through." The holographic display shifted to show a group of agitated colonists, led by a gray-haired woman Lara recognized as Dr. Eleanor Wright, the colony's senior agricultural scientist. "Director Nakamura." Wright began, her voice taut with anger. "We cannot abandon our research facilities. 3 generations of modified crops are growing in these chambers. Irreplaceable genetic modifications that could revolutionize food production for all of Earth's colonies." Lara met the woman's gaze steadily. "Dr. Wright, I understand your concern, but the Zelthar battle cluster approaching us poses an imminent threat to all life on this outpost. Your crops won't matter if none of us survive to harvest them." "You're asking us to sacrifice years of work based on an assumption," Wright protested. "We don't even know their intentions are hostile." "The Zelthar do not deploy battle clusters for diplomatic missions," Lara replied firmly. "I am responsible for 1,500 lives on this outpost, and I will not gamble with them. The evacuation is mandatory. Security teams will assist you if necessary." Before Wright could respond, Malik's voice cut in urgently. "Director, the Zelthar vessel has deployed landing craft. 3 shuttles descending toward the main landing zone." "Time to touchdown?" Lara asked. 8 minutes, Malik replied. "My team is in position, but we can't offer any meaningful resistance if they come in hot." Lara ended the call with the protesting scientists and turned to Anya. "Status of 0 response. Network at 87% activation," Anya reported. "Combat drones armed and ready. Self-destruct charges all showing green status. Awaiting your final authorization." Lara took a deep breath, steeling herself for what was to come. All section leaders report evacuation status. One by one, the responses came in from around the colony. Residential Dome 1 evacuation complete. Agricultural Dome 2 all personnel clear. Research Dome 3 evacuation in progress. ETA 3 minutes to completion. Medical facility all patients transferred to underground bunker. Spaceport area secured and personnel withdrawn. Lara nodded in satisfaction. The drills they had run over the years were paying off in efficient execution. Security Chief Ortiz, withdraw your teams to fallback positions. No direct engagement unless absolutely necessary. Understood, Malik responded, maintaining drone surveillance of landing zone. On the tactical display, Lara watched as the 3 Zelthar shuttles began their final approach to the colony's landing pad. Unlike Earth vessels, the alien craft were angular and asymmetric, their hulls covered in what appeared to be overlapping armored plates. All remaining personnel complete evacuation and seal bunker entrances, Lara ordered. 0 response authorization countdown begins now. 10 minutes to execution. Anya looked up from her console. Director, shouldn't we be evacuating as well? Lara shook her head. Not yet. I need to see their initial deployment. We need to know if this is a full invasion force or just a scouting party. On the surveillance feeds, the Zelthar shuttles touched down on the landing pad. The doors opened, and armored figures emerged. At least 30 soldiers each, standing over 2 meters tall. Their exoskeletal armor gleamed dully in Aranda 5's morning light, and they carried what appeared to be energy weapons. Definitely not a diplomatic delegation, Malik observed over the comm. The Zelthar spread out in a practiced formation, securing the landing zone before advancing toward the main colony domes. They moved with military precision, covering each other as they approached the seemingly deserted settlement. They're not encountering any resistance, Malik reported. Scout drones show they're splitting into 3 teams. 1 heading for the command center, 1 for the research facilities, 1 for the residential domes. Lara watched intently as the alien soldiers methodically explored the empty colony. They seemed confused by the lack of opposition, or even presence of colonists. "Colonel Voro Kalthar," Anya said, pointing to one of the surveillance feeds. "That's their commander, the one with the red markings on his armor." The Zelthar colonel stood in the colony's central plaza, issuing orders to his troops. His imposing figure radiated authority as he gestured toward the various domes. "They've discovered the evacuation was recent," Malik reported. "They're scanning for life signs now." Lara's communicator chimed with an encrypted message from the underground bunker. "Director, all colonists accounted for. Bunker entrances sealed and camouflaged. Awaiting further instructions." "Acknowledged," Lara replied. "Maintain radio silence from this point forward." On the surveillance feed, Colonel Kalthar was examining one of the colony's communication terminals. His troops continued to sweep through the settlement, weapons ready, but encountering only empty corridors and abandoned workstations. "They're trying to access our systems," Anya reported, monitoring her displays. "Initiating cyber countermeasures." Lara checked the countdown timer: 7 minutes until zero response activation. "Time to go," she decided. "Malik, Anya, complete final preparations and withdraw to the command bunker." Malik's voice came through the comm. "Already moving. My team is at the secondary entrance. We'll secure your arrival path." Anya finished locking down her console and rose from her station. "Zero response is fully armed. Timer synchronized with all nodes. Nothing can stop it now without my override code." Lara took one last look at the tactical display, watching as the Zelthar forces converged on the colony's central plaza. Their commander stood in the center, surveying what he doubtless believed was an easy conquest. "Let's go," Lara said, activating the command center's evacuation protocol. The main systems began an automated shutdown as she and Anya moved toward the concealed exit at the rear of the facility. As they hurried through the maintenance tunnels beneath the colony, Lara's mind raced. Had she made the right decision? Was sacrificing the entire outpost worth it, even to save the colonists' lives? Years of work, research, and investment would be destroyed in minutes. Having second thoughts, Anya asked, noticing Lara's expression as they navigated the narrow passages. "Wouldn't you?" Lara replied. "Everything we've built will be worth nothing if the Zelthar enslave or kill us all," Anya finished firmly. "We can rebuild structures. We can't replace people." They reached the reinforced door leading to the command bunker. Malik was waiting, his security team positioned at strategic points along the approach tunnel. "Status?" Lara asked as the heavy door slid open. "Zelthar have secured the main colony complex," Malik reported. "They're setting up what looks like a command post in the central plaza. No sign they've detected the bunker network." Inside the command bunker, dozens of monitors displayed feeds from hidden cameras throughout the settlement. The colonists were gathered in the larger chambers beyond, families huddled together, children being comforted by parents, researchers clutching portable data storage containing their most precious work. Dr. El Sayed approached as Lara entered. "Everyone is accounted for, Director. Minor injuries during evacuation, but nothing serious." "Thank you, Doctor," Lara replied. "And the protest group from Dome 3? "Reluctant, but present," Amir confirmed with a slight smile. "Dr. Wright is still unhappy, but she brought her research samples." Lara nodded and moved to the central monitoring station, where a large countdown display showed just under 5 minutes until zero response activation. She activated the bunker's communication system. "Attention all colonists. This is Director Nakamura. We have successfully evacuated the entire population to the security bunkers. The Zelthar forces have occupied our settlement, but they have found it empty. In approximately 4 minutes, we will implement our final defensive measure. Please remain calm and follow section leader's instructions." She turned to Anya. "Show me the drone swarm status." Anya brought up a tactical display, showing hundreds of small dots hidden throughout the colony's infrastructure. "Combat drones at 100% readiness. Self-destruct charges all green. Primary targets identified and locked." On the surveillance feeds, the Zelthar forces continued to secure the colony, unaware of the trap they had walked into. Colonel Calthar stood in the central plaza, communicating with his orbiting vessels. "Can we intercept their communications?" Lara asked. Malik nodded to a technician who adjusted some settings. A moment later, a rough translation of the Zelthar communication played through the bunker's speakers. "Colony secured with no resistance. Population appears to have fled. Facility intact and valuable. Resource extraction can begin immediately. Research materials appear significant. Requesting harvester ships and additional security detail." Lara's jaw tightened. The Zelthar hadn't come to destroy. They had come to steal and occupy. To take everything the colonists had built through years of hardship and dedication. 2 minutes to zero response, Anya announced. In the central plaza, Colonel Calthar was directing his troops to begin cataloging the colony's resources. They moved with confident efficiency, clearly believing the threat was neutralized and the prize secured. "Shall I display the countdown on the colony screens?" Anya asked, her finger hovering over the control. Lara considered for a moment, then nodded. "Let them know what's coming." Throughout the abandoned colony, every screen and display suddenly lit up with the same countdown. Timer 145, 144, 143. On the surveillance feeds, the reaction was immediate. Zelthar soldiers froze, looking at the displays in confusion. Colonel Calthar barked orders, and several troops rushed to the colony's computer terminals. "They're trying to stop the countdown," Anya reported with a grim smile. "They won't succeed. The zero response is isolated from the main systems." "Warn the colonists to brace for impact," Lara ordered. "Activate structural reinforcement on the bunker network." The countdown continued inexorably, 60, 59, 58. On the screens, panic was beginning to spread among the Zelthar forces. Some were rushing back toward their landing craft, while others frantically searched for the source of the countdown. "Zero response in 30 seconds, Anya announced. "All systems nominal. Detonation sequence locked." Lara watched the Zelthar colonel on the main screen. Even through his alien features, she could read the dawning realization that he had led his forces into a trap. 10 seconds, Anya counted down. 9, 8, 7. Lara closed her eyes. For a round of 5. 3, 2, 1. Zero response initiated. Throughout the colony, precisely placed charges detonated simultaneously. The power plant exploded in a blinding flash, followed by ammunition stores and fuel deposits. Strategic structures collapsed in carefully engineered sequences designed to maximize damage to any occupying force. From hidden compartments throughout the settlement, hundreds of kamikaze drones launched simultaneously, targeting the Zelthar landing craft and troop concentrations. The small, swift drones were nearly impossible to track as they homed in on their targets. In the central plaza, Colonel Calthar barely had time to react before multiple explosions engulfed his position. The command bunker shook with the force of the detonations above, but the reinforced structure held firm. On the surveillance feeds that remained operational, the colonists watched in stunned silence as their home transformed into an inferno of precisely coordinated destruction. The Zelthar troops, scattered in disarray, cut down by collapsing structures, or the relentless drone swarm. In orbit, the kamikaze drones that had been hidden in the colony's small satellite network activated, targeting the Zelthar vessels with suicidal precision. While not powerful enough to destroy the warships, they caused significant damage to sensors and weapon systems. Time elapsed since zero response initiation, 2 minutes. Anya reported, her voice steady, despite the chaos unfolding on the screens. The destruction continued with methodical efficiency. Each explosion was precisely calculated to trigger secondary reactions, creating a cascading effect that swept through the entire settlement. "Zelthar landing craft destroyed," Malik announced, watching the tactical display. "Ground forces estimated at 80% casualties. Remaining troops disorganized and without command structure." "Orbital vessels?" Lara asked. Pulling back to higher orbit, Malik replied. Their sensors appear compromised. They're firing blindly, but hitting nothing. The minutes ticked by as the Zero response completed its programmed sequence of destruction. By the 7-minute mark, the once thriving colony of Aranda 5 had been reduced to smoking ruins. No structure remained intact, no system operational, and no Zelthar soldier remained alive on the surface. Zero response complete. Anya confirmed reading the final system reports. Countdown ended, 7 minutes from initiation to completion. A stunned silence filled the command bunker. 7 minutes. That was all it had taken to transform their home into a wasteland, and to defeat what should have been an overwhelming enemy force. Lara activated the emergency signal beacon, a redundant system that had been designed to survive even the Zero response. It would transmit a distress call to Earth and neighboring colonies, alerting them to the attack and the colonists' survival. Activate the evacuation lights, she ordered. Throughout the underground bunker network, emergency lighting switched from red to green, indicating it was safe for colonists to gather in the central chambers. Lara, Malik, and Anya watched the countdown clock, now frozen, at 000. 7 minutes to turn the tables on an overwhelming force. 7 minutes to ensure the survival of every single colonist. The hidden entrance to the main bunker chamber slid open, revealing the gathered population of Aranda 5. Rather than the fear or sorrow Lara had expected, she was met with applause. The colonists, researchers, engineers, farmers, teachers, and their families clapped and cheered as she entered the room. Dr. El Sayed stepped forward from the crowd. "You saved us all, Director." Lara shook her head. "We saved ourselves. Together. This was always the plan. Sacrifice the outpost if necessary, but preserve our people at all costs." "And now," someone called from the crowd, "where do we go from here?" Lara looked at the faces around her, worried but determined, shaken but unbroken. "We rebuild. This planet is still ours. The Zelthar thought they could take Aranda 5 because we were Earth's weakest colony. Today we proved that even the weakest human outpost is more than a match for their strongest invasion force." "The distress signal has been acknowledged," Anya announced, checking her portable communicator. "Relief ships from Earth and the Proxima colonies have been dispatched. Estimated arrival 3 weeks. "And the Zelthar vessels?" Malik asked. "Retreating from the system," Anya confirmed. "Their command ship sustained significant damage to its propulsion systems. They won't be going far without repairs." Lara addressed the colonists again. "We have supplies to last 2 months in these bunkers. We'll begin limited surface expeditions tomorrow to assess the damage and secure the area. In 3 weeks, help will arrive. And then we rebuild, stronger than before." A researcher raised her hand. "Director, what about our research years of work?" "Not lost," Dr. El Sayed interjected. "Our emergency protocols prioritize data backup, and many of you managed to save physical samples as well. We haven't lost our progress, only our facilities." Gradually, the shock and disbelief began to give way to determination. Small groups formed as section leaders began organizing shifts and responsibilities for the coming days. Children were settled into the designated family quarters, and medical staff attended to those suffering from shock or minor injuries. Later that night, Lara stood with Malik and Anya in the small monitoring room adjacent to the main bunker. The screens showed infrared images of the settlement's ruins, still smoldering from the coordinated destruction. 7 minutes, Malik said, quietly, shaking his head in wonder. 7 minutes to defeat a Zelthar battle group. "Not defeat," Lara corrected. "Survive. There's a difference." "A significant difference in the eyes of the Zelthar," Anya added. "They respect strength, and today they learned that even Earth's weakest colony has teeth." Lara nodded, looking at the devastation they had wrought upon their own home. The decision had been painful, but necessary. "When we rebuild, I'm proposing a new name for the colony." "Oh," Malik raised an eyebrow. "Phoenix 5, Lara said simply. "Because we'll rise from these ashes." 3 weeks later, The first Earth relief vessels arrived in the Aranda system. They were met by an unexpected sight. The colonists had already emerged from their bunkers and begun clearing the rubble of their former home. Temporary shelters dotted the landscape, and the foundations for new structures were being laid. Captain Torres of the Earth Gov Relief Mission stepped onto the planet's surface, surveying the industrious activity around him with amazement. Director Nakamura, "We came as quickly as we could." Lara approached, extending her hand in greeting. Her clothes were dust-covered, and her face showed the strain of the past weeks, but her eyes were clear and determined. "Captain, your arrival is most welcome. As you can see, we've already begun reconstruction efforts." "Remarkable," Torres said, shaking his head in disbelief. "When we received your distress signal about a Zelthar attack, we feared the worst. Yet, here you are rebuilding already, and not a single casualty." "Not one," Lara confirmed. "Every colonist survived." Torres glanced at the gutted remains of what had once been the colony's central plaza. "But how did you manage to defeat a Zelthar battle cluster?" "According to your transmission, they deployed a significant ground force." Lara led the captain toward a small monument that had been erected at the center of the new settlement layout. A simple obelisk made from native stone inscribed with the words, "Phoenix, 5-7 minutes." 7 minutes, Lara explained. "That's how long it took to turn the tables on the Zelthar invasion. From the moment we activated our zero response protocol to the elimination of all hostile forces on the ground." Torres looked confused. "Zero response. That wasn't in any of the official colony defense protocols I reviewed during our approach." Malik joined them, wiping his hands on a rag after helping a construction team. "It wouldn't be, Captain. Zero response was our last resort contingency. A distributed self-destruct system combined with hidden combat drones, designed to ensure that if we couldn't defend the colony, no one else would profit from taking it." "You destroyed your own settlement," Torres asked, aghast. "We sacrificed buildings to save lives," Lara corrected firmly. "And in doing so, we sent a message to the entire Zelthar Empire. Even Earth's weakest colony will exact a terrible price from anyone who attacks it." The significance of what had occurred began to dawn on the captain. The strategic implications are enormous. The Zelthar have been expanding unchecked for decades, believing Earth's colonies to be soft targets. "Not anymore," Anya said, joining the conversation. She held up a tablet displaying intercepted Zelthar communications. "Their military command is in disarray. Losing an entire ground force to what they thought was a defenseless outpost has shaken their confidence. They're reassessing their entire expansion strategy." Captain Torres looked around at the determined colonists, working to rebuild their home. "Earth Command will want a full briefing on this zero-response protocol. If it could be implemented in other colonies—" "It already has been," Lara interrupted. "After our transmission reached Earth, emergency directives were sent to all frontier outposts. The Aranda Protocol, they're calling it now." The weeks turned to months as Phoenix 5 rose from the ashes of Aranda 5. Earth sent additional resources and personnel to accelerate the reconstruction, recognizing the strategic importance of what had occurred here. The new settlement was designed with both security and sustainability in mind, incorporating the lessons learned from the attack. 6 months after the Zelthar incursion, Lara stood at the viewport of the newly constructed command center, watching the sunset over Phoenix 5's expanded biodomes. The settlement had grown beyond its original size, now hosting over 2,000 colonists with improved facilities and stronger defenses. Malik entered the room, carrying a data tablet. "Latest intelligence report from Earth Command," he said, handing it to Lara. "The Zelthar hegemony has formally requested peace talks." Lara raised an eyebrow in surprise. After centuries of expansion, they're suddenly interested in diplomacy. "The Phoenix effect," Malik said with a slight smile. "That's what Earth diplomats are calling it. When your weakest opponent demonstrates they can inflict unacceptable losses, you reconsider the value of conquest." Lara scrolled through the report reading the details of the Zelthar proposal. They were offering non-aggression pacts, trade agreements, and even technological exchange. A dramatic shift from their previous stance of isolation and territorial expansion. The negotiations will be held here, Malik added, at Phoenix 5. Earth Command thought it would send an appropriate message. Lara couldn't help but smile at the irony. From weakest colony to peace conference host in 6 months. Not bad. The Phoenix Monument has become something of a pilgrimage site, Anya reported, as she joined them gesturing toward the central plaza, where the stone obelisk stood. New colonists arrive every week wanting to be part of the 7-minute colony. We've become a symbol. Lara watched as a group of new arrivals gathered around the monument, listening to Dr. El-Sayed explain the events of that fateful day. The story had spread throughout Earth's colonial network, inspiring other outposts to develop their own contingency plans. "Have you seen the latest research reports?" Anya asked, changing the subject. Dr. Wright's agricultural team has made remarkable progress with the salvaged samples. The new hybridized crops are showing 50% better yields than before. Sometimes destruction creates opportunity for growth, Lara observed. We lost our facilities but gained perspective. And apparently the stress of near annihilation is good for botanical innovation. A communication alert chimed on the main console. Director incoming transmission from Earth Command. Priority 1. Lara activated the holographic display, and the image of Admiral Chen, Earth's Chief of Colonial Defense, appeared before them. Director Nakamura. The Admiral began, "Congratulations on Phoenix 5's reconstruction progress. Remarkable achievement in such a short time." "Thank you, Admiral," Lara replied. "But I suspect this isn't just a social call." The Admiral nodded, his expression serious. "Intel suggests the Zelthar peace proposal may be more significant than we initially thought. Their request for negotiations appears to stem from internal political pressure. It seems the loss of an entire battle group to Earth's weakest colony has created considerable unrest within their military hierarchy. Colonel Kalthar's failure has become a catalyst for change, Malik suggested. Precisely, Admiral Chen confirmed. Our xenopolitical analysts believe we're witnessing the beginning of a major shift in Zelthar society. For centuries, their military expansionism has gone unchallenged. Now, suddenly, the cost of conquest has become tangible. All because of 7 minutes, Lara mused. 7 minutes that may have changed the course of interstellar relations, the Admiral agreed. The diplomatic team will arrive at Phoenix 5 within the week. Director Nakamura, Earth Command, requests that you participate directly in the negotiations. Lara blinked in surprise. Me, I'm a colonial administrator, not a diplomat. Admiral Chen smiled slightly. You're the woman who defeated a Zelthar battle group in 7 minutes without firing a shot. That carries more diplomatic weight than a dozen seasoned negotiators. After the Admiral's transmission ended, Lara stood in silence for a long moment, processing the implications. What had begun as a desperate act of survival had somehow transformed into a pivotal moment in human-Zelthar relations. You know, Malik said thoughtfully, when Earth Command designated us their weakest colony, I don't think they anticipated we'd end up hosting peace talks with the Zelthar hegemony. Anya laughed. Perhaps being underestimated was our greatest strength. Outside the command center, Phoenix 5 continued to grow and evolve. The settlement that had been reduced to ashes now pulsed with renewed purpose. Construction teams worked alongside research scientists, security personnel trained with civilian volunteers, and community gardens flourished under the care of both original colonists and new arrivals. Near the central plaza, Dr. El-Sayed had established a memorial garden surrounding the 7 Minutes monument. Each plant species represented a section of the original colony, creating a living reminder of what had been lost and what had been gained. The following week, as the Earth diplomatic vessel descended toward Phoenix 5's landing pad, Lara stood with her senior staff to greet the arriving team. Behind them, hundreds of colonists had gathered curious to witness this historic moment. Ambassador Janeway stepped onto the surface of Phoenix 5, followed by her diplomatic corps and security detail. Her eyes widened slightly as she took in the scope of reconstruction that had been accomplished in just 6 months. Director Nakamura, she greeted, extending her hand. It's an honor to meet the architect of the Phoenix Protocol. Phoenix Protocol, Lara asked, shaking the ambassador's hand. That's what it's being called now, Janeway explained, as they walked toward the administration building. Earth Command has incorporated your zero-response strategy into standard colonial defense doctrine. Every outpost is now implementing some version of it. And the Zelthar, Malik asked. Any update on their delegation? They'll arrive tomorrow, the ambassador replied. And there's been an interesting development. Their chief negotiator is Grand Marshal Raxthar, Colonel Kalthar's superior, and one of the most influential voices in their military hierarchy. Lara raised an eyebrow in surprise. I would have expected Colonel Kalthar to be executed for his failure here. Ambassador Janeway smiled. That might have been the old way, but it seems your 7-minute victory has sparked something of a philosophical revision within Zelthar society. Instead of punishment, Colonel Kalthar has been promoted to their Strategic Analysis Division. They want to understand how they were defeated so thoroughly by an inferior opponent. The next day, the Zelthar diplomatic vessel arrived with considerably more ceremony than their previous visit. Grand Marshal Raxthar, standing nearly 3 meters tall with ornate battle-scarred armor, led his delegation onto Phoenix 5's soil. His 4 arms were adorned with symbols of rank and accomplishment, and his iridescent scales shifted colors as he moved into the settlement's artificial light. The formal negotiations were scheduled to begin in Phoenix 5's newly constructed diplomatic hall. But first, the Zelthar requested something unexpected, a tour of the 7 Minutes Monument, and an explanation of exactly how their battle group had been defeated. Standing before the stone obelisk, Grand Marshal Raxthar listened intently as Lara explained the zero-response protocol and the evacuation of the colonists to the underground bunkers. Fascinating. The Grand Marshal rumbled his translator, converting his complex vocalizations into English. You sacrificed your infrastructure to preserve your population. This contradicts our understanding of human value hierarchies. How so? Lara asked. Our intelligence suggested humans prioritize their technological achievements and territorial holdings, Raxthar explained. That your species would sacrifice lives to maintain control of resources and installations. Lara shook her head. We value life above all else. Structures can be rebuilt, research can be redone, but each person is irreplaceable. The Grand Marshal was silent for a long moment, his multifaceted eyes studying the monument. 7 minutes, he finally said. An expensive lesson for the hegemony. 3 warships damaged, 1 command vessel crippled, and an entire ground force lost. All because we misunderstood your priorities. Understanding is the first step toward peace, Ambassador Janeway offered diplomatically. Indeed, Raxthar agreed, turning to face the gathered human representatives. Which is why I am authorized to offer not just a non-aggression pact, but a formal alliance between the Zelthar hegemony and Earth's colonial network. The proposal sent ripples of surprise through both delegations. An alliance had been considered beyond the realm of possibility, given the centuries of Zelthar isolation and expansion. That's unexpected. Ambassador Janeway managed quickly regaining her diplomatic composure. May I ask what prompted such a significant shift in Zelthar policy? Grand Marshal Raxthar gestured toward the Phoenix 5 settlements surrounding them. This, a colony with minimal defenses that defeated our most efficient battle group without firing a single conventional weapon. A people who prioritized survival over territory. A strategy that turned weakness into strength. He paused, his scales shifting to a deeper blue hue. The hegemony has encountered many species in its expansion, Ambassador. None have demonstrated such creativity in the face of overwhelming odds. The formal negotiations that followed over the next several days were unlike anything in the history of human-Zelthar relations. What had begun as a simple peace proposal expanded into discussions of trade routes, technological exchange, and even joint colonization efforts in disputed regions. Throughout the proceedings, Laura found herself repeatedly called upon to explain aspects of the Phoenix strategy to fascinated Zelthar military observers. Their martial culture, it seemed, had a deep appreciation for effective tactics, regardless of their source. On the final day of negotiations, as the various accords were being prepared for formal signature, Grand Marshal Raxathar requested a private meeting with Lara. They stood on an observation platform overlooking the expanding biodomes of Phoenix 5, the setting sun casting long shadows across the landscape. "Your people have accomplished much in a short time," the Grand Marshal observed. "Already your colony exceeds its former capabilities." "We had help," Lara acknowledged. "Earth sent considerable resources once they understood the strategic importance of what happened here." Raxthar nodded, his upper arms clasped behind his back, in what Lara had come to recognize as a contemplative posture. "Director Nakamura, there is a question that has occupied my thoughts since learning of the events here. May I ask it directly?" "Of course." "The Zero Response Protocol. It existed before our arrival. Yes, it was not improvised in the moment." Lara nodded. "It was implemented during the initial construction of Aranda 5, a contingency we hoped never to use." "Then you anticipated such an attack," Raxathar said. "Perhaps not from the Zelthar specifically, but you prepared for the possibility that your weakest colony might become a target." "We prepare for all possibilities," Lara replied diplomatically. The Grand Marshal's scales rippled with what might have been amusement. "Including the possibility that destroying your own colony might serve a greater strategic purpose than attempting to defend it conventionally." Lara met the alien's gaze steadily. "The Zero Response was designed with one purpose: to ensure the survival of our people at any cost. Its strategic implications were secondary considerations." "Were they?" Raxathar asked softly. "Or was Earth Command perhaps aware that demonstrating such resolve, even at your weakest point, might deter future aggression more effectively than conventional military displays?" Lara chose her words carefully. "Grand Marshal, I can only speak to my responsibilities as Aranda 5's director. Strategic policy at the galactic level is somewhat above my pay grade." Raxathar made a sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "Diplomatically stated, Director, regardless of the intent, the outcome has been educational for the hegemony. 7 minutes that changed centuries of military doctrine. 7 minutes that opened the possibility of alliance rather than conquest." As the Grand Marshal turned to leave, he added, "The Zelthar have a saying. The most dangerous opponent is not the one with the strongest weapons, but the one willing to sacrifice everything except their core purpose." It seems humans understand this principle well. The Alliance Treaty was signed the following day, in a ceremony broadcast throughout Earth's colonial network and the Zelthar hegemony. What had begun as a desperate act of survival in Earth's weakest colony had reshaped the balance of power across multiple star systems. 1 year after the attack, Phoenix 5 had grown into one of Earth's most prominent frontier colonies. Its population had tripled, its research facilities had expanded to include joint human-Zelthar projects, and its strategic importance had been cemented in both human and alien consciousness. Lara stood with Malik and Anya at the annual commemoration ceremony, watching as colonists and visitors alike placed memorial tokens at the base of the 7 Minutes monument. Among them were several Zelthar, their tall forms bowing respectfully before the simple stone obelisk. "Did you ever imagine this outcome when you gave the order to activate Zero Response?" Malik asked quietly. Lara shook her head. "I was just trying to keep everyone alive. Everything that followed was unexpected." "Sometimes the smallest actions have the largest consequences," Anya observed. 7 minutes that changed the course of 2 civilizations. As the ceremony concluded, Lara was approached by a young Earth officer recently assigned to Phoenix 5's expanded security detail. "Director Nakamura," he said, offering a crisp salute. "I just wanted to say it's an honor to serve here. What you accomplished. It's become required study at the Academy now. The Phoenix Protocol is considered one of the most significant strategic innovations of the century." Lara nodded in acknowledgement, though the praise still felt somewhat undeserved. She hadn't been thinking about strategic innovations or galactic diplomacy when she'd made the decision to activate Zero Response. She'd simply been doing what was necessary to protect the people under her care. Later that evening, as Phoenix 5's artificial lighting simulated dusk across the settlement, Lara returned to the monument alone. She ran her fingers over the simple inscription, 7 minutes. 7 minutes that had transformed Earth's weakest colony into its most strategically significant outpost. 7 minutes that had converted a centuries-old enemy into an ally. 7 minutes that had redefined what strength truly meant in an expanding galaxy. "Not bad for the weakest colony," she murmured to herself, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth as she turned to walk back toward the command center, where the future of Phoenix 5, and perhaps of human-Zelthar relations, continued to unfold one day at a time.